He is a trustworthy guide. I love this about Jesus. John chapter 10, verses 2 and 3. It says, the one who enters through the gate, he is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. Okay, so the sheep know the shepherd, they recognize his voice, and they come to him. Now, how do we learn his voice? How do we come to the place where we know his voice? I think the easiest way for me to kind of illustrate that is simply to say, if my phone were to ring, and I hope it doesn't because I forgot to turn it off. Hopefully it'll cooperate while we're videoing. But let's just say that my phone rang and I don't look at the caller ID and I put it to my ear and it's Kelly. And she says, hey, and starts talking to me. I never am going to say, is this Kelly? Because I've known Kelly for 30 years. We've had bazillions of conversation. You know, this summer will actually be our 29th wedding anniversary. It's amazing to think about. But the point is, we've had so many conversations, I know her voice. I just instantly know it. I could walk into a room of 100 people and I can hear my wife's voice because we've spent time together. And friends, that's how we get to know the Savior's voice. We spend time with him, listening to him. This is why when we get back together, I can't wait to teach QT, our quiet time class again, and help everyone. If you haven't made a commitment to a quiet time, this class is all about helping you make that commitment to spending time with Christ in his word every day. And you see what happens as you do that. And you fill your mind is renewed by time with him like that. You begin to develop discernment. And so all these thoughts and voices that come into your head, you're able to say, you know what? That thought, that was not of Christ. That was not of my good shepherd. That does not line up with his word. That was not his voice. But this thought, oh no, that one absolutely lines up with the truth of his word. And all of a sudden you begin to have discernment and you can recognize the voice of the shepherd. So important that we know his voice and follow him. John chapter 10, verse 3, the second part of the verse, Jesus says, going into verse 4, he says, he, the shepherd, he calls his own sheep by name. First off, I love that. In the family of God, you are not a number. You are not a nameless, faceless cog in a wheel. You are a child. You are God's child. You've been adopted into his family. You have a name. He loves you. You bear the image of God. You are indwelt by the Spirit of God. You're part of the family. He calls you by name. And then he says he leads them out. And I love that. There's a time to gather. That's important. God calls us to gather, to assemble together, to encourage each other, to be together. But there's also a time to be led out. The Christian life is to be lived, right? And so we follow the shepherd out of the pen. It's good to come together in the pen for fellowship and worship and all those things. But then the shepherd leads us out into the world to love and live and serve and shine for him. He says after he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them. So we're always following the shepherd. And they follow him because they know his voice. Just stirs up again in me this awareness. I don't know what tomorrow holds. Sometimes I have a sense that I think I know where this week's going or this day's going. And we all make plans and we need to make plans. It's a good thing to make plans. You don't want to, the old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. There's truth to that. But we got to bathe it in prayer and hold it with open hands saying, Father, you know what? If you're willing, this is where we're going to go because I know tomorrow could completely change. We don't know what's around the next corner, but we know who's leading us. And we know that whatever's around the next corner, he's going to be there. And we're going to be with him and we can do all things. We can do all things through Christ, our good shepherd, who gives us strength. He is a trustworthy guide.